Welcome to Future Conversations, the podcast that explores research through the lens of tomorrow by Monash University, Malaysia.
Welcome to the podcast where research and today's conversations illuminate the path to the future. My name is Sadequr Rahman, and our topic today is future foods. With me today, we are very fortunate to have three distinguished experts looking at this topic from different angles. We've got Dr. Celia Go, who is a council member of the Malaysian Institute of Food and Technology. We've got AP Siow Fong, a colleague who's the head of Food and Science Technology at Monash University, Malaysia, in the School of Science. And we've got AP Beng, who's an expert on plant genetics and looking at ways in which the Malaysia's rice eels production can be protected. So the topic today is how our foods will change in, say, 25 years initially, and then we'll also try and look further ahead at 50 years. So thank you all for coming. So Celia, how do you think if I was going out to have breakfast 25 years from now, how do you think my plate would look different? And what would I be having?
25 years from now, we're looking at around 2050. I think the main diet wouldn't be that much of a change. So we will still have, let's say, breakfast, we'll still have our Nasi Lemak, we still have our curry mee, we still have our noodles and roti canai and all. But maybe the ingredients would be slightly different, and definitely our portion would be smaller as compared to what we have right now, because the lifestyle has changed. It's not so much of a label intensive anymore. So I would foresee the portion would reduce. The ingredients might be more there might be a bit of different ingredients, but mainly what we are eating is not that big of a difference.
What about you, Fong? Do you think we'll be eating the same thing, just smaller portions and more expensive?
I think breakfast will be much easier to prepare. In 25 years' time, everything is easy. You may just press a button and all things are ready, as well as more healthy food that is available for breakfast, for example. Yeah.
This button that you're having me press, is this on the microwave or something else?
It could be just another machine that you press on what you feel like eating, and then it will pop up probably.
No, that's very different to today. So you think there'll be a mixture of foods in this machine, and we just press and it'll all come out?
And all the ingredients will mix together and get cooked, within minutes or seconds, and it just pop up in front of you, probably.
Okay, so are you going to be happy with having this breakfast?
I would be very much happy if we're going to have a machine by pressing the button, like button A, to give you some pills or capsule, so that you can just swallow it, and then that's all for your breakfast. And then during the lunchtime, you press another button.
You sure you enjoy the
What's the fun of having just pill?
Well, to me, that saves a lot of time for me to prepare the food. But I do agree with Celia about the ingredients, the huge variety of different ingredients in next 25 years or 50 years. So I look at it from the perspective of the genetics and also the plant species. So currently we have about 7,000 known edible plant species, but the portion of those plant species that we are heavily relying on currently, mainly those staple food species like rice, wheat, barley. But there are still many other edible plant species which are classified under the underutilized food crops, and also those indigenous fruit tree species. Yeah, so I think in the future we would expect more such underutilized species will be coming into our list of food that on our table.
But if we look at taking your argument, would you say that if we look back then and use that as a guide to what's going to happen, would you say that our foods now are very different to 25 years ago? Or you think the pace of change will increase?
So 25 years ago, I'm still in primary school. Oh, not even primary school. So what I can remember is almost the same, but I see a lot more processed food, and we rely a lot more in like easy preparation and convenience food, a lot more frozen food, a lot more microwavable food. And let's just talk about kitchen utensils. Back then, you are still maybe on the most blenders, juicers, and mixers. But now you have things like Thermomix, where you can just put a setting and you have everything done at just that setting. So I think the way of eating has not changed that much, but technology definitely gives more variety to us in order to cope with our lifestyle.
So what you're saying is, compared to 25 years ago, we eat very similar things, but it's just made more quickly. Is that what you're saying? Or
Made more quickly.
and less labor.
Yes, less labor. And also, like what Professor mentioned just now, we have a lot more frozen and microwavable food. So you can just heat up your food. But last time you have to prepare maybe like 1-2 hours to get those food. Yeah.
So, Li Fong, you think we're going to have more and more frozen food? Is that good?
Frozen food is nothing bad, actually. It can has very long shelf life. Frozen food, nothing's bad about frozen food. I did frozen food chemistry before.
I think in fact it's even more nutritious because you preserve the nutrients.
Yeah,
that it
sometimes
was
you
harvested,
concentrate
right?
the
Yeah.
nutrient too. So it's nothing bad with frozen food. Don't think frozen food is bad at all. And the methods of preparing food is getting easier with time. And I would think that the difference between, now and 25 years ago would be people are looking at more nutritious food. So everything like what Celia mentioned is a more processed food and have more nutrient dense. If the food itself is not in itself very nutritious, but it can be enriched, with certain nutrients and things like that to make it more nutritious for different group of people. And the way of preparing it is easier, much more convenient. So these are the direction we are looking at in the future food.
So more nutritious and easier to prepare. But coming back to more nutritious, I've been reading that ultra-processed food is not good for us. So is that desirable, or are you looking at nutritious? I mean, maybe not ultra-processed, but frozen and a different type of food. Is that?
I think food technology is meant to make the food, has a longer shelf life and meantime maintain its functional properties or nutritional profile of the food. So food technology is the way to go to learn new techniques and things like that. How can we make foods better? Of course, ultra-processed is it's a very scary term, ultra-processed food. Of course, now people going back to as little processing as possible, the raw vegetables. But in practical, can you, store those fruits and vegetables that long? So we are busy people. People are getting more busy. So you need a certain processed food, in a way, in order to be able to live conveniently. Otherwise, you just have to rely on the fresh fruits and vegetables every day. You have to go and source for it. And I don't think that is practical. Yeah.
Okay. So the other extreme of practicality is BK's taking 2 pills in the morning and 3 pills in the... But is that, seriously, that's going to play havoc with our social life? I mean, we already don't spend enough time with our families. And if you're now going to have 2 pills for dinner and you're off...
Imagine your 2 pills of dinner plus your other medicine, How many pills you're going to swallow, BK, in the morning?
Well, I do agree that so it cannot be like the sole solution, the only solution for us to obtaining the nutrients that we need. Yeah, but it could be something that we could probably we could think about, especially during our hectic schedule. So that is one possible or one potential solution. So in the future, yeah. But this kind of the food processing technology is always like advancing and, diversifying. So in the future, yeah, we are seeing this, we are observing this, right? So we have, diversification of the technology, the food processing technology, the agricultural practice, the breeding, the animal breeding, the crop breeding methods. So these are all, having more and more technological advancement, and we are seeing that this kind of the technological advancement has been, bringing us more different types of foods, including those processed food.
What about the sources of food? Celia, do you think we'll still be eating a lot of chicken and beef and pork? Or are we going to have new insects? Are we going to be eating things, processed seaweeds? What are we going to be having?
Yeah, I think with the ethical issues right now, a lot of people has turning into vegan, and they want to more environmental friendly to reduce the carbon footprint. So, but I think in 20 years time, at least within Malaysia, it wouldn't have much of a change. Those concepts of being vegan or being environmentally friendly has not been so pressing in our region. So I think the main proteins for us will still be what we have been eating, poultry, and then fish, beef. But I think there is also a very big space for the growth of alternative proteins. And I think for Malaysia, maybe would be mostly plant or mushrooms kind of protein. Yeah, insect, not so much, because I think there is also a lot of religious issue involving. So yeah, maybe we'll see a lot of meat analog, especially with 3D printing getting more and more advanced. So they can use plant protein to mimic the texture of meat. So I think that could be a trend, but we also have to think whether is it cost effective to produce this kind of meat to become a staple on our dinner plate.
So it'd still be what we're eating now, mostly chicken.
Yes, but there might be more variety in terms of alternative protein. Maybe with like liquid protein first, milk, nuts, becoming milk, rice milk, and all this. Yeah, but in terms of solid protein, maybe not so much yet.
Okay. So Fong, what sort of alternative proteins do you think we would go into? I know you've done some work on unusual food sources.
I'm working on moringa seed protein isolates, where these moringa oils are precious. After pressing out the oil, the remaining seed, we isolated the protein and make into a burger patty. Unfortunately, the protein isolates itself has a very unique taste that may not be everyone can accept it well, even though, there are some of our panels mentioned that it's all okay as long as it's from moringa. They were more than happy to accept it. So I think proteins from plants is the way to go for me, because personally I don't take insects as a source of protein. I could imagine as well, like coming back to our breakfast just now, a plate of Nasi Lemak in future could have a variety of having plant-based proteins in there. Example, you can have your ikan bilis to be replaced with fried algae, fried seaweed, fried mushroom, and your sambal maybe is fermented seaweed or something to get the umami flavor of that sambal. So it can be replaced, but I'm seeing like more and more people, especially the young generations, I'm giving my kids as an example, they can go all out for plant-based foods, because they love the environment, they have been educated, how important, what are we facing right now, the climate change and so forth. So this young generation, as I observe, they will be the one willing to spend the money to buy these plant-based proteins options in the market. And right now, it's not that cheap, the plant-based proteins food. And therefore, I can see it's only like certain groups will be able to enjoy alternative proteins, for example. But I'm not sure how long it takes, until it can reach the other like B40 or whatever group that's willing to buy, because meat protein has always been viewed as a premium source, right? When we were young, only like big occasions we get to eat fried chickens or so. Other than that, it's all vegetables, beans and lentils. So meat protein has been viewed as something very premium in the family. So if you're at the B40, you fork out certain money and to buy food, would you willing to buy a plant-based instead of a meat, if they're equally priced? So I think education-wise as well. So it's a behavior change, and all this is affecting how we are going to choose our food in future. And also depending on different economy groups as well.
Yeah, but let's say 20 years from now, it's also like instilling that habit to get used to and to acquire to that kind of taste and get used to it. So maybe it's not so realistic to totally replace within a very short time. When we see in a longer perspective in 20 years time, like what Professor said just now, your kids are so used to having protein, plant-based protein in your meal since small. So it will become a habit when they grow up, and that will pass down to generations after as well. So when it has become a staple, then I'm sure that other classes, economic classes, will also follow suit eventually. 25 years might be depending. Yeah, it really depends.
50 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so
maybe you need a food giant, maybe like Nestle or whatnot, to advocate that, and it will be much faster than, because right now most of the plant-based meat are from startups. So I think the effect will be much slower.
Yeah, I think the startups, some of them are certainly struggling, because I think in New York, a couple of them have already closed down. But interesting, Fong, what you said about meat, because now we're going to go back 50 years, which you cannot imagine, I know, Celia. But I remember meat when I grew up in Bangladesh 50 years ago. Meat was, as Fong said, was a premium. I remember being asked for my 7th birthday what I wanted, and I wanted a meal of roast chicken. I said, can I have a roast chicken all to myself? So that's changed so much, and chicken is now like tissue paper essentially. It's become so inexpensive, and it's also perhaps not allowed to live as a chicken. Essentially, a chicken is now an industrial product. It's not an animal product, it's almost an industrial product. And I think the same is happening with things like salmon, perhaps aquaculture. So if we can now, I mean, I won't ask you to go back 50 years, but if we look forward 50 years, now this is where you're going to be really allowed to dream. What do you think we'll see in 50 years? BK, your chance, 50 years from now.
I think the main thing will still remain the same. Yeah. Well, I do agree that the plant-based meat could be, maybe or may not be, the mainstream or that kind of the main staple food. But yeah, it is one of the alternatives. I've been seeing this a lot in Singapore. People have been taking plant-based chicken nugget, so things like that on their plate. But of course, at the moment, the taste and the texture itself of those plant-based meat is not up to maybe most people's expectation. So, but it is still evolving. So scientists are still doing a lot of hard work in the lab, hopefully to improve the content and the texture of the plant-based meat. Yeah. So,
okay. Let's turn away from the plant-based meat. What about the rice? I presume we'll still be having rice as a major staple. How is the rice going to change, do you think?
Yeah, I think now, remember we have this green revolution, 20th century, right? So that is the first green revolution. For rice, in my research, so I focus a lot on this weedy rice. They call it padi angin, so which is a kind of wheat in paddy field. One kind of the weedy relative for Oryza sativa, which is the scientific name of rice. So earlier I said, the underutilized food crop species comprises not only those commonly used edible plant species, but also other kind of the wild relative and the weedy relative of the crops. So weedy rice is one of the relative that are commonly found in the paddy field. The thing is, people don't realize that there are many beneficial traits in this kind of weedy rice, which means that they have many beneficial genes in their genome, so which can be used by scientists in the rice breeding program. So it means that those beneficial genes would be able to improve the agronomic traits of those rice, and in future we would expect the future rice variety would be containing this kind of the gene, nutritional, maybe even the outlook, the color of the rice grain.
Those we will get a lot more variety.
So we'll have this kind of the many different rice variety in the future because availability of such weedy rice, weedy relative of rice.
So as a consumer though, what I would be looking at from what you said is that I would get rices which would have different properties because of the new genes that you're bringing in from weedy rice. And that would give me a lot of choice in the type of rice I would like to eat. Is that right?
So one very typical example is the red rice because of the anthocyanin, right? So this is also one of the important characteristics of weedy rice or some wild rice, right? So most of the wild rice are, black in color if you peel off the husk. So you'll be able to see the red or dark brown color of the grains. So this is, one of the very good examples how scientists could fully utilize
the weedy rice in Malaysia.
The weedy rice and wild rice.
In Malaysia. And actually in Bangladesh and the subcontinent, we are quite used to eating red rice. We wouldn't regard it as weedy rice at all. It's actually quite a premium rice. Anyway, so I can see the rice. We will get a multicolored hue of rices on the plate. That's something to look forward to. So, Li Fong, your students have been making products, right?
Yeah.
From in their projects aimed at not a market, obviously, 50 years from now, but much shorter term. What sort of have there been really innovative products that you can think of?
They have been working a lot using underutilized crops, as Beng has mentioned. We have a huge amount of underutilized crops, ranging from banana, the heart of the banana, right? That is quite good as a meat replacer. It has a very unique texture. They have also been working with all the byproducts from the food processing, like the peels and the remains of fruit juicing and things like that. So they have come up with a lot of different products, ranging from ice cream to nuggets and one of them, you're working on okra, which is the byproducts after you're pressing out the soy milk, which is the remains, and make with nuggets, and won a prize at the IU4's Food Product Development Competition. Yeah.
I remember you mentioned before Bambra groundnut.
Yeah.
Right? So I've seen this, Bambra groundnut milk so it tastes really good, like almost equivalent to or better than the soy milk.
I'm not sure Bambra groundnuts is available in Malaysia. That was one of the study when we worked with Nottingham University to look at the hard to cook HTC Bambra groundnuts, how we can use food processing to improve the processing time for these and the palatability of the Bambara groundnuts. But the source of it may not be that much in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we have a lot of moringa leaves, stem, seeds. These are a lot. Bananas, heart, it's a lot. Or breadfruit, or wing beans. These are, or even though the spinach. Yeah.
So we'd see many more of these
which is underutilized
on our plates in the future.
It won't be totally replaced, as what Celia has mentioned. I do agree on that. It won't be totally replaced on the plant proteins, to the meat proteins, but it can add more variety. So in future, we will have a mixture of real meat protein as well as plant proteins, and rice. Rice I think is good because it's gluten free for people who suffer from gluten. Right, rice is very good, but a lot of other, new varieties of that cereals that can replace rice. Example, quinoa and millet. They are more resilient to the climate change. May come into on our plate.
On our plate.
Yeah.
So do you expect like consumers to prepare their own food using these underutilized crops and waste, or is there like a driver, maybe like a more like economic driver or a big giant company behind all this to in order to make it happen in the next 20-50 years?
I do think that we need that giant to help us. We can't be sourcing the banana hearts in the market every day, as I mentioned. We need this processed food to be ready and at a reasonable price to reach to all groups of people.
Okay, yes, Celia, I want to go back to you now. So I didn't ask you to look back 50 years because you don't have that. But say 50 years forward now, if I still alive, or all of us will be, I'm sure many of us won't be here, but the ones who will be very old. And I mean, that's a phenomenon we're seeing across the world, that the population is aging. So will there be special foods for people like us?
Okay, so just now when we were discussing about like having meals together in a table, but then I thought everyone might have different nutritional needs at the same table. Communal dishes might not work then, and there might be like more specialized nutrients that are curated for their nutritional needs, or even based on their genes, that from there they might have like prepared meals that are curated for them, and then so everyone can have a same meal at the same dinner table with like different nutritional profiles for them.
Therefore, we need the machine,
Yes.
remember?
Yes.
This one is for you.
Yeah.
This one is for me.
And then
I think the machine will need your, one
Input
drop
of genetic information.
genetics. Yeah, it needs to know what kind of genotypes or genes and alleles that you are having, so that it can prepare and give you a prescription.
Yes.
So which button should you
More
press?
And I think the nutritionists can come in to write like the recipes where they can prepare the meal in meal kits and all, and then they just throw it in the machine.
But I'm really getting quite alarmed by this, because the meal as a social institution is obviously under a lot of threat.
Yes.
We're already assuming that we'll have multi-generational meals, but that may not happen, right? It could be just nuclear families, essentially, and the old people may not be with us.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll be moved to a separate table.
So maybe there is also, let's say now you have a family at different places. Now we have AR, we have VR. Perhaps by then you can even have the smell transmitting through your whatever technology. So you might have more chance of having communal meals, but it's just at different places. Imagine like after the pandemic, everyone is so relying on Zoom meetings and all. So I think it could become a new norm to have meals at different places at the same time. But
So
at
Zoom
the same
meals.
yeah.
Zoom meals.
Yeah.
So looking forward then, on my plate would be a much greater diversity of foods. Less meat, less chicken, I hope. And certainly perhaps meat mimics if I really want to get the taste of the meat. Right, and BK will provide us with different types of rice, multicolored. And I'll be sitting down to a meal by myself, but my children will join me through Zoom, and my grandchildren will join me through Zoom.
And you have your food delivered to your house through like drones or something.
So I wouldn't even prepare my meal. Are we seeing this? You think it's going to come from a centralized kitchen, like Amazon,
Likely.
like dropping meals?
I think you
Yes.
can just use a 3D printer. Everyone will have a 3D printer besides a computer. So what do you want to eat? Fried chicken. So you press a button and then the 3D printer will give you fried chicken in front of you. Yeah.
But when you put it in this perspective, it sounds very sad.
It does. It does sound very sad to me.
Like, we lost our cultural touch. We lost the human touch. Yeah.
But, well, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Maybe we will have our specially tailored meals, but perhaps we can still have it all together. Yes, because our meals have this other really social aspect which we forget about. And Li Fong, you were also saying that as older people age, they lose their sense of taste, do they?
Oh yes, I see it in my mother. The taste bud really, I think, changing with age, and therefore we need to be more sensitive. If we have old people, aging population, and at home, like my home, for example, we have basically 3 generations, my mom, myself, and my kids, sitting on a dining table and deciding what to eat. So my mom will be low salt, low sodium, low fat, everything else, and easy to swallow kind of food. My kids, okay, meat is good, everything else. And for myself, I'm at the pre-diabetic stage, so I want to get the lowest amount of rice if I can, control the carb intake and things like that. So everyone will just blend in. So it's very difficult actually to suit everyone's needs. So the personalized nutrition, as Celia has mentioned, could be very important. So it's a way to go to do more research and see what's the needs of the different group of people, especially we are having the aging population increasing in our country.
Okay. All right. So any final last words, Celia?
Just now we were talking about the source of the food and how we are going to prepare. But how about the whole supply chain from farm to fork? So I think there will be also more advanced type of delivery and also tracking system, and also most important, food safety. So our food should be more hygienic, and through this more integrated kind of supply chain, we should have more safer food. And so with a better supply chain, so it's more efficient, and perhaps it will be giving us a cheaper food. And then because of these more stringent kind of logistic, we have safer food. And yeah, we might not be worried about like having food by the roadside and then having diarrhea the day after kind of thing.
Extended, very long supply chain that's well protected, so you get safer foods and nutritious foods and a variety of foods, right?
Yes.
That's what you're looking at. Li Fong, what do you think? Any
final
last words? Yeah.
Enjoy the food that is on your plate.
Hey.
Because it has been curated for you, that food and the source of it and all this. And it gives you nutrients, it keeps you going, So I think we should enjoy the foods.
Should you ban smartphones from meals, do you think?
What a smartphone. Oh yes, that should be banned totally on the dining table. It's meant to be a social interaction time with your family, with your loved one, with your friends. So that's a precious time for having a meal after a long day.
Okay, thank you. And BK,
And
final words.
Yeah, and it's very important to have a food scientist at home, so that you can take care of whether this is a healthy fat or healthy protein, for the family. Yeah.
Any last words, BK?
I would think that, the key word is diversification. So we have been talking about the role of diversification in many aspects of agri-food system, including like, what I mentioned about this crop diversification, the variety of different plant species, the edible plant species, which humans have not been fully using them. The diversification of those technology for food processing, for example, and how we produce the crops. I mean, how we plant and practice them in the agricultural land. And we have also production diversification. We have also, market diversification. So all these be very important and playing their own role in ensuring the food security in the next 25 or 50 years.
Okay. All right. So that's a great summary then. So really what we're looking forward to is a diversification of our diet and diversification of how that meal is prepared, and also more targeting. So it may look the same, but some meals will be aimed at the elderly people, some at the infants, some at the middle-aged person.
I have one more, Sadeq. Besides enjoying food,
Yes.
do not waste food.
Yes.
I think that is another big part of what we need to educate everyone.
Eat only what you can consume. Take only what you can consume. Yes, absolutely, I think. So that's a great summary. So diversification and reduction perhaps in the size, so you don't waste food. Thank you all so much for your time and for being here. So thank you, Celia. Thank you, Fong. Thank you, BK. I'm Sadequr Rahman. Thank you for your company, and we hope to catch up with you again sometime in the future.
You were listening to Future Conversations, a podcast by Monash University, Malaysia. For more information, email mum.media@monash.edu.